All right, so back to the story. Because I was given that shot, like I said, the first doctor said I didn't have a mental illness. They sent me to the doctor. He examined me for a week. He told my mom, she didn't believe it. My mom thought I had schizophrenia. That's what she was saying. Then they sent me to the second doctor. My mom said that she wouldn't give me a place to stay unless I spoke to the doctor. They wouldn't let me into the psych ward, so I told them I was suicidal because they said we would only let you in if you're suicidal. Then my mom blackmailed me, said that if she can't talk to the doctor, then she's going to break all my basketball videos, all my basketball DVDs. So I let her talk to him, and then she convinced them that I was schizophrenic when I wasn't, hurt my mom and my dad. And then I ended up having to, they gave me a shot, and that lasts for 2 months, but it takes 2 weeks for it to start releasing. So I got out. I went to the outpatient program. They gave me the psych testing because I told them, hey, I told them what happened, how my mom blackmailed me, all this stuff. And they gave me the psych testing, all that. And they said, you don't have a mental illness. You don't have schizophrenia. You don't have bipolar. You don't have any mental illness. And I was like, yeah, I know. So they told my mom that she has to stop trying to make me take medicine. My mom didn't believe them. So my mom still didn't believe them up to this point. So, but they told her that she has to stop doing that. And they told her that she can get in trouble because my mom was like, but he can't work. He can't work. He has mental illness. He needs to be on Social Security. And they're like, oh, so that's why you want him in the psych ward. They're like, that's messed up and you can get in trouble for that. So they told her, you have to stop trying to force Ryan into psych wards. It's not right. He doesn't have a mental illness. We gave him the MPI. My mom's like, he tricked you. And they're like, no, we can't. And then she's like, I just want him to be independent. I just want him to be independent. Because that's what my grandpa would say. And I'll get back to that. My grandpa was like, oh, Ryan really wants his independence. Ryan just, because when my shot got messed up in high school, it's because of the shoot-away machine. But my grandpa came in from Kauai. He didn't know what was going on. He's like, oh, well, what's going on is Ryan's having problems with his dad. And this is normal. It's normal for high school kids to have problems with their dads. It's because they want independence. No, that's not what was going on. My shot got messed up and I needed my dad's help. My dad helped me my whole life. So, anyways, back to the story. So my grandpa was like, oh, well, Ryan just wants independence. This was in high school. And it continued with that. My mom, for the rest of the time, my mom's like, oh, well, yeah, Ryan just wants independence. So let's get him out of our lives. But my grandpa would even say, my mom misinterpreted him. He was like, well, I didn't mean to throw him out of your life and, to throw him out of your life and to, like, completely neglect him. I was just meant, like, he needed, that he needs to, like, gain skills and, like, get a job and become independent. But I didn't mean to, like, kick him out of your life and never talk to him. Like, he told me I cast pearls of swine. They didn't understand what I was trying to teach. But my grandpa's full of shit, too, and I'll get to that. My grandpa didn't believe the Quadrimile. He did want me away from my dad. He didn't believe me about the shoot-away machine. He thought that I was the problem. So I'll get to that. So, and I'll explain about the shoot-away machine and I'll explain what happened because I never would explain to people because I didn't want to make good shitters think. And I'm still not going to explain in depth, but I'll give a surface level of what happened with the shoot-away machine. But, so, my mom was, so at this point, like I said, I needed a place to stay. My mom gave me a place to stay in Escondido on a second floor apartment. I was like, Mom, can you give me the first floor? She's like, oh my God, all you want is to get your way. That's all you care about. You just want to find something to be upset about. You just want to get your way. And again, this stems from high school because at the time in high school, my shot got messed up and I was like, can I please, my dad was trying to fix it. He couldn't fix it. He's like, I give up. I'm like, Dad, come on, help. No, if you ask me again, I'm going to beat you up. He beat me up. Okay. But then he would try to help me again. And he'd be like, your shot looks like shit. And then finally my grandpa comes in and my grandpa's like, oh, well, Ryan just wants independence. And then I'm like, no, I need help from my dad. And then, so I'm trying to get help from my dad with my shot. And my grandpa's like, well, Ryan, you can't always get your way. Everything is just fine in the universe. Everything is an energy event. Everything is just fine. You can't make things happen. You got to be in the flow. You can't make things happen. You can't force things. Meanwhile, if it wasn't for the shoot-away machine, none of this would have happened. But my mom was like, yeah, you can't force things. You can't make things happen. You can't always get your way. You can't always get your way because I'm trying to get help from my dad. No, everything's just fine, Ryan, as my dad's beating my ass up. Everything is just fine. You can't get your way. You can't always get your way. So my mom maintained this attitude, this hateful, contemptuous attitude toward me. So at this point, I needed help. My mom's like, oh my God, you just want to get your way. You cannot be happy with anything. and then I talked to my grandpa. My grandpa was like, yeah, you know, you have this shot in you. I grew breast tissue. I was getting tardive dyskinesia where my fingers would involuntarily twitch. And my grandpa was like, yeah, it would be a good idea for you to be on the first floor so you can exercise. Because I couldn't exercise because I was on the second floor. I didn't want to make too much noise for the people below me. So my grandpa was on my side. And my grandpa even told my mom, he was like, yeah, it'd be a good idea. But my mom at first was like, oh my God, no. Oh, you just want to get your way. You can't make things happen, Ryan. You can't make things happen. You can't force things. I'm not going to give you what you want. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I gave you a second floor apartment. Now accept it. You have to accept it. And that, again, stems from high school when my shot was messed up. And my grandpa comes in, he's like, well, your dad made that call. You just have to accept it. You have to, even if your dad makes a bad call, you have to learn to accept bad calls. That's part of being in the flow. You got to just, and that's why I blame my grandpa. And I'm going to get to this. It's like, I'm like, well, instead of trying to, and then later my grandpa will be like, well, I cast pearls of swine. Your dad and mom misinterpreted. But instead of trying to get my mom and dad to make better calls and try to not be so abusive, my grandpa comes in, he's like, well, Ryan, just learn to take abuse. Learn, you know, and if it wasn't for the shoot away, none of this stuff would have happened. But he didn't know that. None of them knew that. I didn't know that until college when I looked at the videos. I have a cold. But, so, yeah, so then at this time, I needed a first floor apartment. So my grandpa was like, yeah, it would be a good idea to get a first floor apartment. So then my mom gave me a first floor apartment. But right before she gave me it, I was doing lunges in the second floor apartment after I played basketball because I was going to try to get back into basketball. I was doing lunges, and I'm going to explain how my shot was so messed up at the time, and I'll get to that. But I was doing lunges, and I didn't want to make noise for the people below me, so I didn't warm up good, and I tore a tendon in the back of my knee. And I already had a messed up tendon in my other left knee, but my mom thought it was my hamstring. And my mom and dad, my dad's a doctor, but he didn't know shit. He thought it was my hamstring, but I went to a physical therapist. He said, no, it's actually your tendon. So my mom was like, oh, you just, so then I wanted to talk to dad because I hurt my tendon, and my dad's a doctor. So I'm like, Mom, can I please just talk to dad? And my mom's like, no, he's never going to talk to you. Get that through your fucking head. He hates you. Don't you remember how you treated him in high school? So then I tried to explain to her, Mom, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the shoot away. Oh my God, you're stuck in the past. This is why you have schizophrenia, because you're stuck in the past. And I'm like, no, you're stuck in the past. You're the one who, what I'm trying to say is, you think that it was my fault what happened. No, it was a shoot away. Can we move on? No, oh my God, get over basketball. What the hell? You suck at basketball. That's what she would say. She said, you suck at basketball. Oh my God, why are you so focused on basketball? I was like, yes, I started to suck at basketball because of the shoot away machine. And that is true. I was the best at basketball. I was the best in the country. I won a national championship. I was the best shooter in the country. A lot of people said that. And it was a shoot away machine that messed me up. But she's like, oh my God, you fucking suck. And I was like, Mom, even if I suck at basketball now, which I didn't, but at the time, I'll explain what happened and how my shot was still messed up at that time. But I'll explain how I figured things out eventually in 2019. But I was telling her, if I get back into basketball, it could also help me write rap music, because I can only write rap music when I'm nervous, and only serious basketball gets me nervous. She's like, oh my God, you suck at rapping. Oh, what are you, 2 years old? Rap was popular 10 years ago. Rap it's a fad. It's not a fad, but she's like, it's a fad. You fucking suck at rap. I was actually an amazing rapper. And the only reason why I wasn't a famous rapper was because she threw away my rap music. Because I gave her my rap music in college before I showed her the Quadrant Model. After I showed her the Quadrant Model, she thought I had schizophrenia, and she threw away all my written raps. I had a lot of them transcribed on the computer, but they're full of errors. I would have been a famous rapper if she didn't throw away my raps. So, I'm trying to get a hold of my dad. So I'm just like, Mom, please, let's move on. No, oh my God, you just want to get your way. You can't always get your way. You can't make things happen, Ryan. Because again, she has mental disturbance. She has a mental emotional disturbance because of high school. It was traumatic for her. My dad was beating me up. My mom was beating me up too. While I was watching and encouraging my dad. Look how ugly he is. Like I said, when my shot was messed up, my mom came to my first game as a freshman. What the hell's wrong with you? You're a shooter, Ryan. What the fuck? You suck now. Well, you're a shooter. You're a scorer. What are you doing? What happened to you? She didn't know it was a shoot away machine. Okay? So but at that time, my dad was like, Marlon, stop, because I was a starting point guard on varsity. He's like, Ryan, Marlon, stop. He's doing fine. Because I was doing good. I was dribbling good. I was a leader in assists. I was a starting point guard on varsity as a freshman the whole year. So, but my mom was like, no, he fucking sucks. My mom thought that she was going to like raise a fire under my ass and get me to work harder and do better. She thought that, but she didn't know it was a shoot away machine. No matter what she would do, it wouldn't have helped. It was a shoot away machine that was messing me up. And I'll get to that. She's like, oh my God, he sucks. So then when my dad did start to beat me up in the 10th grade, when I lost my starting spot, and when, and I was trying to fix my shot, and then my dad was like, I give up. You fucking suck now. I can't help you. Every time I try to fix your shot, it gets more messed up. It's because it's a shoot away machine. Then my mom was like, then I was like, Dad, come on, please help a little bit more. And I was, no. And then he beat me up. And then my mom be like, look at how ugly he is as my dad's beating me up. Look at how ugly he is doing all that shit. You fucking suck, Ryan. Ryan, just accept bad calls. As your grandpa said, you can't make things happen, Ryan. Because my mom started to hate me because my mom was like, what's wrong with you? And I even mentioned this before. And at the end of high school, my mom was like, what happened to you, Ryan? What the fuck happened? Were you raped? Did the P. Miller Ballers, because I played on Master P's basketball team. She's like, were you raped on that team? No, I was never raped. It was a shoot away machine that fucking messed me up. But anyways, so my mom, so again, she has an emotional disturbance and if it wasn't for the shoot away machine, as I said, none of this would happen. I would have been a great basketball player. It would have been wonderful. My dad was with me all the time. He was happy with me. Everything would have been great. But then my grandpa comes in, oh, Ryan just wants independence. And then he comes up with all this like spiritual psychology bullshit. And then he just fucked up everything worse. So anyways, at this point, I wanted to talk to my dad. I needed help. I had a tore tendon in the back of my knee. But my mom's like, he's never going to talk to you. Get that through your fucking head. So, so at that point, yeah, it was a tragic situation. So, but then my grandpa did start to teach me again. So I started to, because I started studying my grandpa again. Because again, my grandpa stopped studying with me when he learned that I was a communist after college. And I was a communist because I was against his whole spiritual shit. And I thought his whole spiritual shit was white supremacist. And he was blaming the victim. And I always saw him as a victim blamer. So I didn't like my grandpa. But I started studying with him again. And I'm trying to understand his teachings. But then, but my leg was still hurt. And I was like, Grandpa, my tendon still hurts. And it's like, it's bad. And I need to talk to Dad. And my grandpa was like, well, have you thought, maybe if you were independent, it would heal better. Because if you're independent, then you're more in the flow. And, your energy is more in the flow, and then you'll heal better. And ironically, what I studied is if you're alienated from your family and you're thrown out of your family, that makes you heal worse. But my grandpa, who I feel like is always a victim blamer, trying to blame me. It's not because you're thrown out by your family and you're neglected and you're being abused emotionally and everything, mentally, by them neglecting you and calling you names and your dad not talking to you. And again, people are going to think, oh, well, your mom must have a reason. I'm talking to my mom on the phone. She hadn't seen me really since high school, maybe 2 or 3 times in college. Same thing with my dad. I hadn't seen him since high school and 2 or 3 times in college. Now, again, in high school, when I wanted help with my dad, I was like, Mom, can I see Dad? Because they kicked me out of the house. When I was 16, 17, I lived with my grandpa. They forced me to live with my grandpa in Malibu. My grandpa got a place in Malibu. And so I wanted help for my dad, though, because my shot was messed up. And my dad told me to do the wrong thing. I'll get more to that. But then my mom was like, oh my God, you're 17 years old. What are you, 2? You need your daddy? You need your fucking dad? Are you a fucking 2-year-old? And now at this point, when I'm 23, again, she got stuck in the past. She couldn't get over it. And she thought there was something wrong with me. It wasn't me. It was a shoot-away machine. If the shoot-away machine, none of it would have happened. But then when I was 23, she's like, oh my God, you're 23. You're 22. You're 23 years old. What are you, 2? You need your daddy? Yeah, I needed my dad. My dad could have helped me. He's a doctor. I tore my tendon. I needed help. But my mom's like, and then my grandpa again, he's like, well, if you were independent, you'd be healing better. But my grandpa's saying, like, get a job, become independent. Then you'll be in the flow and the synergy of the universe, and that will help you to heal because your energy flow will be better. No. In my opinion, what would have been better is if I had my mom and dad talking to me and I had some support. Then maybe my energy flow would have been better and I would have healed better. Right? But, so, and at this point, and then I was just about to get back into basketball, and then I have a torn tendon, because my mom wouldn't just give me a first floor apartment. And again, my mom was like, when I later told my mom that, she's like, oh my God, you don't take responsibility for anything. Oh my God. So, but at this point, so I still want to talk to my mom and dad. I still want to see them. I hadn't seen them since high school. So, yeah, but then I started, my grandpa started studying with me again. But then I'm telling my grandpa, I was like, Grandpa, you're a big part of the reason why this stuff has gone so bad. It's because of your teachings, dude. I was like, your whole make Ryan independent thing. And my grandpa was like, well, I never taught them to neglect you. I just, I just cast pearls of swine. They misinterpreted what I taught. And I was like, and your whole thing, you can't make things happen and you can't force things and just be in the flow, and how my mom and dad misuse that. And he's like, yeah, well, I cast pearls of swine. They misinterpreted my teachings. And I'm like, well, why don't you tell them to stop then? He's like, well, because I don't give answers unless the questions are given. And he was like, I did that before and I messed up. And now you're in this situation. Yeah, and I messed up before, but I can't, I know not to do that. So my grandpa's full of shit. So at this point, and then I was like, Grandpa, you messed things up way worse than they could have been. It was going to be messed up regardless because of Shooaway, but my grandpa didn't believe me about the Shooaway, but it was going to be messed up regardless, but you made things worse. And then my grandpa was like, I don't like your software, I don't want to submit myself to this. I'm not going to study with you anymore. I'm not studying with you anymore. And my grandpa was going to be like my dad. And I felt like when grandpa did this, he's just trying to because he was always on my dad's side. And I feel like he was trying to justify my dad. Yep, it's your software. That's the reason. So when I tried to explain to my grandpa it was a Shooaway machine, he was like, it wasn't the Shooaway, Ryan. It was because you were playing against bigger, better players. You got frustrated. And when you got frustrated, then your dad didn't want to shoot with you. And then you wouldn't, and then you were still frustrated and you took your frustration on your dad. And then your dad, that's when the bad stuff started to happen. So he tried to blame the victim. He tried to blame me. So I was always on my dad's side. He always tried to make me the bad guy. So then I'm telling my grandpa, Grandpa, please, can we continue to study? Because I was still confused about the flow. I didn't understand what he was teaching me. And he confused me. So, but he was like, no, I'm not going to study with you anymore. So he did what my dad did, and he threw me to the side. He neglected me. So then I'm completely isolated. And, but then I started to write online, and I started to write about what my family's doing to me. And I started to write, all this stuff and about how my grandpa, made me kind of into a Nazi, a white supremacist, because my grandpa was like, yeah, the Jews were parasites in Germany, and yeah, you got to, nothing bad comes uninvited, and your software, creates your reality, and there is no innocent victims, and he made me into a right winger. So I was like, that's what happened in after college. At first I was a communist because I was against his ideas, but then he made me into a right winger, I felt like. And then I got confused, and then I became a left winger again, like I said, and this is a long story. But I was like, and then my grandpa felt bad for me. He started reading this stuff, and I was posting this stuff, and he started to study with me again. Okay? So, but again, all that, it gets confusing, everything that happened at this point. But this is essentially the problem. So my mom's like, and as I said, my mom was like, I talked to my psychologist, and he said that it's best that I don't talk to you anymore, and that, because, you're toxic and you create anxiety for me. So I'm never going to talk to you again on the phone, because she never did talk to me. She would always hang up on me, but I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And from now on, if you ever want to talk to me, just text message me. Okay. So she hangs up on me. So then I don't have anybody to talk to. And I have a torn tendon in the back of my knee. And I want to just talk to my dad, and I want to explain to him what happened with the Shooaway, and I want to move on. So I'll continue with the story.